Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Goosebumps, The Haunted Mask 2. This is the follow-up from the very first Goosebump episode to ever air, The Haunted Mask. The Haunted Mask is one of the all-time greatest of greats when it comes to R.L. Stine's Goosebumps. It's on the top 5 of many people's list. Carly Beth was the main protagonist in the first book and in the first episode. People love Carly Beth. Carly Beth is a person that you felt sorry for, that you cared about, and you really felt like you feared like she was in true trouble. That is great writing. That is great acting. But however, in The Haunted Mask 2, Carly Beth is not the protagonist. She's kind of like a side character. But she does have a pretty big arc in the second installment. R.L. Stine loves The Haunted Mask so much, and Carly Beth, he keeps going back to the well. When he rebooted his entire Goosebumps series, he rewrote the whole Haunted Mask, but to fans' dislike. He changed the character of Carly Beth. She was more smug. She was a bit arrogant. People didn't like that. They liked the innocence that he first wrote for her back in the day. The first installment of this still, for some bizarre reason, is not on DVD. It was on VHS. It is insane that it is not on DVD, but what is on DVD? The Haunted Mask 2. In fact, it's on a solo DVD, just like with the first installment. It was an hour-long special, broadcast at night because of how dark and creepy it is. This episode is twisted. They took the good parts from the first installment and they cranked it up by 100. The new protagonist in this is Steve. He was the bully from the first episode. They recast Steve in this episode. Now he's played by the actor who was in the Cuckoo Clock of Doom and who was in the Adventures of Shirley Holmes. I like this recasting. Nothing wrong with the first actor, but this dude brings more depth to light that up the character. In this installment, Carly Beth has defeated, the Haunted Mask. It shows back up in the beginning of the episode. It comes up from the ground. The shopmaker, they recast him as well. He's played by a different actor. And this second installment, it retcons some things we know about the first. In the first one, this shopmaker is a lot ruder, a little bit arrogant, a little scary. Here, he's a kind, gentle old man. In the first installment, he said that he created the mask. They was once beautiful, but their souls turned dark. That's why they're so decrepit. And I think he said you can't destroy them, but yet we see him trying to put them in the incinerator. And then here comes the Haunted Mask floating through the sky. It possesses him. Now he's wearing an all black suit and a red tie with a cloak, trench coat. He has a nice design. And who's he looking for? Who do you think? Carly Beth. But he knows he just can't get Carly Beth because she's too smart for him. So he finds Steve. Steve is upset. Steve is becoming a teenager. I think he's in his preteens and he loves trick-or-treating, he loves Halloween, but he hates being a pirate every year. And so he wants something scary. He wants a mask similar to that of Carly Beth. And he really just wants to have one good trick-or-treat before he gets too old. And he talks about how time is passing on by and stuff. And so it's weird. It's a different shift in tone with Steve this time. In the first installment, Chuck was the meaner one and the one seemed like the leader. This time, Chuck is more docile and he takes orders. Steve is more rude and mean and stuff and seems like he's the leader. And so, one night, he sees Carly Beth and her friend walking home. And so they take her little head statue that her mom made for her, the one that helped defeated the haunted mask in the first installment. They won't give it back. But then Carly Beth is able to get it back. And so like he's begging, like he's pleading, like where did she get that mask? But she will not tell him because she knows the dark horrors that come with that mask and the shopkeepers other masks and stuff. So one day at school, when they're walking home from school and everything, he sees a man dressed in the haunted mask. The man takes off running. They chase behind him. He pointed to a condemned shop. It's the same shop Carly Beth went to. It's now condemned. They snuck into the back. Chuck is terrified. He leaves, but Steve takes a mask. He's happy. He's excited. He goes back home. His mom has the pirate costume for him, but he don't want it. He puts on the mask and thinks it's awesome. Him and Chuck, they go out trick-or-treating, but Chuck is creeped out by the mask. The Duff girl from Krat's Creatures makes a cameo in this. She's a girl dressed in a costume. It sucks she didn't have a bigger role. She never has a bigger role in this. Also, a lot of the black kids don't have a bigger role in Goosebumps. If you ever notice, it's predominantly white. And that's just Hollywood for you, and that's North Hollywood, Canada for you. And, you know, there is one episode and one episode only where black people are front and center, and one episode where an Asian girl is front and center. I never noticed that until now. When I was growing up, I never noticed that. Thankfully, with all the new installments and everything, there's more diversity and a lot of R.L. Stein's adaptions and stuff. So where I left off, so Steve is scaring the piss out of people and everything now. He's stealing their candy, but his throat's a little sore. Him and Chuck, they get into an argument because the mask is now taking over the mind of that of Steve. He is ruder, he is meaner, he is arrogant. He wants to put the fear in people's hearts now. And so it makes him run off and leave Chuck. Chuck finds Carly Beth and her friend. One's dressed as a tiger. Carly Beth is dressed as a duck. It's funny because she does her duck walk and everything. And so, like, now she's happy and she appreciates the costumes her mom make her. Because she didn't do that in the first installment. When they find, like, you know, Chuck, he's trying to, like, he's dressed as a gangster and everything, an Italian one. How stereotypical. And so, like, he tells them about Steve, and Carly Beth is frightened. She knows, she suspects that Steve has a mask from the party shop. He takes her to where Steve found the mask, and she goes in there. Her friend and Chuck are scared. They want to get out of there, but Carly Beth doesn't want to leave until she finds the shop owner, which she cannot find. But the shop owner with the possessed mask on is stalking her, looking at her around like the corner and stuff as she's in there. Anyway, Steve is terrorizing people, but his voice is getting more harsh and everything. He's thirsty. His throat is drying out. Why? The mask is taking over. It is turning him into an old man. Steve is nothing more but probably like 11 or 12-year-old boy. And he is now feeling the reality of what it's like to be that of like an 80-year-old man. He can barely walk. He has to use a stick just to hold himself up. When he tells these two boys to take the mask off him because he can't, because now it's welded to his face because the spell is taken over, they are terrified. They say he smells like an old man, and like there's no line between the mask and his skin. It's literally just his skin. Even his hands transform into that of an old man. He has spiders crawling all around his face. The voice, this actor did a great job. When he talks as an old man, he changes his voice. He's constantly breathing heavy. He's always like thirsty. I'm so thirsty. I need a drink. Help me. Like, he literally talks like that. It is creepy when you watch it and everything. I love this so much. This is why this is such a great episode. Could you imagine if they was to remake this in modern day, how terrifying they'll make it for adults? Boy, I hope one day they do. And so encounters that of the shopkeeper with the haunted mask on his face. The haunted mask is torturing him, tells him he wants the head of Carly Beth, but not her real head, the statue, the one that defeated him. And he tells him he has to the stroke of midnight to get the mask, or he'll stay an old man for the rest of his life. And he makes more spiders come on, like, what's his name, hit, and they move too. Whoo, you know how I feel about some bugs. And so there he goes. Steve is just like, he's trying to hoof it, man, but he can barely move. This really makes you stop and think of your own mortality, of when you get older, your body slows down, your bones start to hurt, you can barely move. I don't want to get like that. Nobody wants to get like that. Just ask Madonna. And so, like, he goes to Carly Beth's house. He tricks her mom. He gets the statue. He goes to the cemetery, and just like the haunted mask tells him, he's about to destroy it until the headless Carly Beth's head thing talks. I was shocked and surprised. That thing talks, talking about help me in Carly's Beth's voice. He is terrified and stuff, but the haunted mask tortures him into the point where he shatters the head. Now the haunted mask has exactly what he wants. He can get Carly Beth back. So Carly Beth and the group, they go to the cemetery where Chuck and Steve where she scared them last Halloween. And there she comes face to face with her greatest fear. It's the haunted mask, and he wants her back. He tells Steve to hold her still, and he does it because Steve wants nothing more but to be normal. He is desperate. The haunted mask does something so uncanny. It was such great CGI. I give them props because it was the 90s. He rips off like his trench coat and shirt and everything, and all you see is a floating head. But where is the body of the shopkeeper? Don't know. The haunted mask is floating in the air, and it comes towards Carly Beth, but Steve decides he's not gonna take it no more. He's gonna save Carly Beth and tosses her out the way, and the mask just like hits the ground and stuff, and it is defeated. The head and body of the shopkeeper comes back, and he tells Steve, you can now remove that mask. And Steve desperately rips the mask off his face, but Carly Beth and Steve and them don't know how. And Steve is surprised that it's literally just the mask. Before, it felt like skin. The mask is very creepy and disturbing. He tells them that the act of love is what caused him to defeat the haunted mask and take his off. When he sacrificed himself for Carly Beth, it was the love that he needed to defeat the mask. Similar how the head of Carly Beth was the love she needed from her mom to defeat the mask in the first installment. So after this, the shopkeeper's face is now normal, which is weird because the shopkeeper said that his face is literally a mask. So I don't get it. Maybe that's why he looks different. I don't get it. But anyway, when Carly Beth and them are all at Steve's place, they burn their mask. But I think the mask reconstitutes itself. It reanimates the haunted mask. Not the old one, but the haunted mask. The spirit is still alive in that. But the dog takes the mask and bury it in the ground. And then we can see the mask is trying to come back. This is one of the coolest episodes ever. It's one of the all-time greats. I'm so glad it's on DVD. I wish the first one was on DVD. I don't know what's taking them so long. I don't want to be an old man and own the first one on DVD. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.